ships sailed to Palestine, one after another, at an average frequency of one every 10 days. The Royal Navy succeeded in capturing all such ships on the high seas, but the battle was difficult and the victory embarrassing. The immigrants did not give up easily, and the battles they waged on deck brought no honor to Great Britain.
Another shipload of human misery sails into Haifa harbor. Refugee ship brought in by a British boarding party after a 2-day sea chase. Some seek vainly to escape as their comrades offer resistance on deck. Theirs is a hopeless attempt.
At the port of Haifa, where the ships were towed for deportation of the illegals to Cyprus, reporters and film crews recorded the proceedings. Their reports served the Jewish cause in the struggle for world public opinion.
Like cattle, back to exile. 4,000, the largest contingent of unauthorized immigrants ever to reach the Holy Land. The doors to the promised land again closed to the victims of man's inhumanity to man.
The Ergun and Stern Group totally rejected the Zionist leadership's demand to refrain from violent acts. The two dissident organizations continued to attack government targets incessantly, making life increasingly difficult for the British. The authorities reacted forcefully, but to no avail. They fenced and fortified government offices, but the underground still succeeded in penetrating them. After each such act, passers-by were arrested and stood up against a wall. Fighters caught with weapons were brought to court in chains. Then began a series of death sentences and hangings. The most daring Ergun activity was the storming of Acre prison and the release of many underground fighters incarcerated there. British unease increased. Soldiers traveled in armored vehicles, their guns cocked. Train travel was disrupted, and His Majesty's forces found themselves serving as railway guards. A sign for the future was the decision to evacuate families of civilians and soldiers to Britain. These pictures show the beginning of the end of the British presence in Palestine. It happened when the British government decided to submit the Palestine question to the United Nations.
His Majesty's government in the United Kingdom, having submitted the problem of Palestine to the United Nations, I desire on their behalf to express their appreciation of the manner in which this special assembly has devoted time and effort to devising this first step towards a solution of the problem.
What was Britain's true position in 1947? In Jerusalem, Mandate authorities carried on business as usual, as if they were prepared to continue ruling Palestine for another 50 years. Political observers speculated that Britain had passed the problem to the United Nations not in order to find solutions, but rather in order not to find one, relying on the Soviet Union, which at that time was vetoing all Western initiatives.
Now, I call on the delegate of Soviet Union. Maintenant la parole au délégué de l'Union soviétique.
Господин председатель.
То обстоятельство, что ни одно западноевропейское государство не оказалось в состоянии обеспечить защиту элементарных прав еврейского народа, объясняет стремление евреев к созданию своего
Andrei Gromyko's
государства.
speech was the greatest surprise of the Assembly session. The representative of the Soviet Union, the historic enemy of the Zionist movement, spoke of the right of the Jewish people to independence, thus removing the main obstacle on the path towards the State of Israel. The General Assembly session concluded with the appointment of a special commission called UNSCOPE, which was to visit Palestine, study the problem, and propose a solution. People felt that this was simply another committee, whose fate would be no different from that of all the other committees in the history of the mandate, which had submitted recommendations that were never carried out. The UNSCOPE Commission held its meetings at the Jerusalem YMCA building, where various witnesses were invited to present their testimony. Among them were David Ben-Gurion and his young liaison officer Abba Eban. Ben-Gurion, chairman of the Zionist executive, the man who would become first prime minister of the State of Israel 1 year later, expressed the hope that the commission would hand down a just verdict.
You will achieve your mission successfully when you restore freedom to Palestine, give justice to the Jewish people, and stability, progress, and prosperity to the Middle East. These three objectives can be accomplished by the immediate abolition of the white paper, the establishment of a Jewish state, and the promotion of Jewish-Arab alliance. I thank you.
On July 18, 1947, an illegal immigrant ship was towed to the port of Haifa. This dilapidated riverboat, with 4,500 people packed inside it, was the Exodus. The Exodus had been captured on the high seas after a fierce battle, in which 3 immigrants were killed and 100 wounded. These scenes of immigrants disembarking, taking a few steps along the pier of their beloved homeland en route to the deportation ships, had become routine in 1947. However, this particular scene was without precedent. It reflects all that took place during those final hours on the decks of the Exodus. On that very day, 2 UNSCOPE members visited the port. The chairman, Justice Sandström of Sweden, and the Yugoslavian representative, Simic. "This is the best testimony of all," commented the Yugoslav. No sooner did the commission leave Palestine when fresh violence erupted. It began with the British, who hanged 3 condemned Irgun members in this cell at Acre Prison. A heavy pall of mourning descended upon the Jewish community. The next day, 2 British sergeants, kidnapped by the Irgun and held as hostages,